the best thing I could suggest is to put in a request for information, talk with one of our awesome admissions reps here. Maybe you find out this is a great fit for you. Maybe you find out it's not what you're looking for, but having that conversation is the first step. And I think that can open up a lot and answer a lot of questions that someone may have.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of The Gun Rack. That's SDI's podcast on everything firearms, the firearms industry. We have a special episode today. It's all about admissions and the programs here, how to get in, what the process is. And for that, we have Director of Marketing Steve Ross and Admissions Manager Nick Tormento. How you doing, guys?
Doing good, Christian. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Glad to have you here, Nick.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we're used to having Steve on here. Nick's our special guest. Nick is an admissions manager here at Sonoran Desert Institute. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, what you do here.
Yeah, so I am an admissions manager here, one of 5 of us. So my main function here is to work with our admissions representatives and help students get through the enrollment process smoothly, and really be here to support our students through that entire process. I've been with SDI going on 5 years now. I started off as an admissions rep, and as the school has grown, I evolved into my role now, and I really love working with the representatives and helping them achieve their goals. But I also really, really love working with our awesome students and helping them achieve their goals.
Yeah, Nick was I started a little bit after you, Nick, and I started as admissions rep as well. And he helped kind of set a proper tone of what an admissions rep should be. He knew his stuff. He was able to talk to everybody well. What's important about being a good admissions rep?
Yeah, just providing our students with a high level of customer service. Our students are coming here to make a big change in their lives. So we're here to answer all those questions for you, to go over the program in depth to make sure, SDI is going to be a good fit to help you achieve the goals that, you want to achieve by completing a program like this. So that's one of the main things we really do over here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Nick, because most of our students, like with SDI being an online school and with our courses, different people are coming in at different stages of their life. So I think you guys as an admissions team do a very good job of preparing them for what school is going to be like. And I'll probably say, like, you and the admissions teams probably talk to more future gunsmiths and drone operators in a week than most people do in their whole lives.
Yeah, that's true. We do. We talk to a lot of students each week, and that's the fun part about our job, because everyone, is coming from different walks of life. You may talk to someone in California, you may talk to someone who lives on a ranch in Wyoming, and then your next phone call may be someone in New York City. And all 3 of those people may have different firearms or drone backgrounds. So it's always great to hear about someone's gun collection.
Yeah. And you know what? Let me get this out of the way, and I'll probably put it in the description box below. But everything we're talking about, admissions-wise, program-wise, timing, yada, 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 that's all as of this recording of this podcast. So that's the little disclaimer here. But taking a step back, Nick, tell us some cool stories from admissions, from coming up as an admissions rep, then going all the way up to admissions manager.
Yeah, so I think my favorite admission stories are the ones where you get to see your student's success. So I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio. So you guys we're all over the country here at SDI, which is great. But I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and one day I was at our local range and I had my SDI shirt on, and a gentleman walked up to me, introduced himself, and let me know he was a student of SDI. And it turned out he was one of my students. So it was really cool to get to connect with him, see his success. He was just starting to teach some safety classes at that range, and he was getting into the gunsmithing side of things there. So it was really cool to, put a face to the person I've been talking to all that time, and then to see where his career has gone.
That's something I've started doing at trade shows when I run into students, is asking them, who was your admissions reps? And like the ones like, man, that was a good admissions interaction, or, with the student, getting them prepared and made that connections. If they remember their admissions reps, like, yep, we did our jobs right.
That's always cool to see that. And when you message us like, oh, so-and-so said Pam or so-and-so said this person's doing a great job. We always love that. So.
Tell us, let's go from, I guess let's go with how, a little bit of SDI background. Talk to our viewers about SDI in general, what we do, what we teach.
Yeah, so here at SDI, we have two schools. We have our School of Firearms Technology and our School of Uncrewed Technology. So our School of Firearms Technology, we currently have 3 programs that we offer. We have our Certificate of Firearms Technology of Gunsmithing, and then we have that program's kind of like big brother, the Associate of Science in Firearms Technology of Gunsmithing. Those 2 programs work very hand in hand. The certificate courses all are in the associate degree. So a lot of times we have students who start with us with the certificate, they get their feet wet, start working in the field, and then they realize, hey, I want to, take this to the next level, and they come back and get their associate degree. But we also have some students who may just jump right into the associate degree. Those students are usually looking to get out into the industry, work for some of those bigger manufacturers, maybe as like a warranty gunsmith, and having that degree will help them get that, little extra checkbox on their interview and resume as they're progressing through that. And then our third program in the School of Firearms Technology is more of a specialized program. It's our Certificate of Firearms Technology of Handgun Specialist. It's a really cool course that really focuses on the different operating systems in handguns. So students actually get to do 3 different builds in that class. And it's very hands-on, so very specialized for the folks who just want to work on handguns.
Yeah, but I will say, I'll add on to that handgun specialist. I mean, from everyone I've talked to, it is an accelerated program, basically. When I describe to people, like, it is really good if you either have gunsmithing experience coming into it or came from one of our other programs before starting that program. It is very hands-on, and like it is handgun specialist. You are to the next level at that point.
Yep, it's very cool to see how many of our graduates are actually, coming back and taking that next step to get that knowledge as well. So
it's
really,
always
really
crazy
cool
to see how many students we have that are like, yep, I just completed my certificate in firearms technology gunsmithing. Now I'm either going on to the associate or I'm pursuing my handgun specialist. They take one and they come back for another one. I love seeing that.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into our second school here, right? The School of Uncrewed Technology. We have a pretty big crossover from our grads from the firearms programs into the drone courses as well. So we offer 2 different programs in the Uncrewed Technology School. We have our Certificate of Uncrewed Technology Aerial Systems and our Associate of Science in Uncrewed Technology Aerial Systems. So both of those programs play nice together as well. They're stackable programs. It really kind of depends on the student's background and where they want to go. The certificate program really lets students kind of dip their toes in a couple of different aspects of the drone industry to see where they may want to take it, if they want to be a pilot or maybe more of a technical side like programming. And then from there, they can build on that with the Associate of Science.
Yeah, and that is really kind of like the 30,000 foot view of those drone programs. I'll tell you, anyone who's watching, if you go to our blog page of our website, there's a really good article at the top there that kind of goes a little bit deeper into the difference between the associate and the certificate in the uncrewed programs, outcomes, who's it's for. So that's kind of my question for you, Nick, is, as all of our programs at SDI, all the firearms, all the uncrewed programs they are online. So who's a great fit? Who's a great fit as a student for SDI's programs? Like,
great question.
What kind of people do you see that are thriving here?
Yeah, so the great thing about SDI is we could be a great fit for a huge range of students, whether it's, someone who's fresh out of high school who may be having to work a busy job, maybe they're getting their first job right out of high school and they don't have time to go to a traditional full-time school. We can be, a great fit for them there. We're also the perfect fit for a busy professional. If you work a 9 to 5 and you can't, do classes during the day, or maybe you work a second shift or a third shift, our programs are designed to be flexible for you to log in whenever you can. Now, we do have some deadlines that you'll have to meet each week, those being Wednesday and Sunday. Um, all of our classes have a discussion board post that our students have to post in by Wednesday nights. And then they'll respond to those discussion boards by the following Sunday. There'll also be some sort of assignments, whether it be a hands-on assignment, a writing assignment, a test, a quiz. Those are all due by the following Sunday as well. And like I was saying, you don't have to log in at a specific time to sit on a Zoom call. You can progress through the week's materials kind of at your own pace.
Yeah, that's one thing that I always talk to when I'm at the shows and people ask how it works. How do you get the hands on? What's the time schedule like? I try to make the point that, hey, it is flexible, but flexible doesn't necessarily mean easy. We're still at college. You're still going to have to put in the work. We've gone over it time and time again, and it's at any college. You get in what you put in. So, just really learning how to manage your time, putting in the work, hopefully you get the results that you're looking for if you're willing to do all that, but you've got to put in that work.
And speaking of time, we do offer both full-time and part-time options. So for those students who are like, hey, I've never been to college, I've never done online college before, this is totally overwhelming, we would recommend starting with a part-time schedule. That way you can take, 1 or 2 classes at a time, kind of ease your way into it. And then, after your first semester, if you're like, cool, I got this, I can handle a full-time schedule, we can then bump up that workload for you. So there's options for everyone. If you're overwhelmed, just talk to us and we can come up with a game plan.
If somebody were to ask you, why should I come to SDI, an online school, as opposed to going to a ground campus, what would you tell them?
Well, I think that all depends on what that person's looking for, right? If they're looking for something that's flexible, something that they can do around a work schedule, a lot of these programs aren't available in ground campuses. There's a lot of travel involved to get to certain programs. If you don't live close to a school that offers these, we're a great fit for you here. Yeah, I would say that covers that.
The convenience. Yeah, the convenience of not having to relocate, even just the simple convenience of not having to pull into a parking lot and be like, where am I going to park today? I'm running late, is such a little tiny benefit that just adds up over time. But then it's like, okay, in an on-ground, if you're not taking advantage of all of your time there, you might have access to certain materials for only during your class time. When it's online, especially with SDI, where we provide majority of those materials for you, especially what is needed for those lab projects, you get to do it as part of your curriculum, but it's at home. You should be practicing again and again, and you have access to all those materials, whether they're online learning or the actual physical tools in front of you. So the students that I've talked to that do very, very well, like, yep, I did as part of my assignment, but then, hey, yep, while I'm sitting down, instead of, being on Instagram or watching TV at night, I'm rebuilding my AR. I'm working on this revolver for a project. I'm cleaning this trigger job from a gun I got, reestablishing what they learned in class over and over again. So when it comes time to graduate and they move on to real life, it comes natural. It's easy for them. They had access all along and they were just practicing. And that's not always accessible or easy to accomplish if you're having to drive to somewhere to get access to those materials. That's what I see over and over again.
Yep, it's very true. And it's great too, because I know when I took a class here, I'm not the most mechanically skilled. So doing it from my own home workshop, I was much more comfortable when I screwed something up. I was
For
like,
sure.
okay, I don't have someone over my shoulder like, what are you doing? When I shot a spring all the way across the room, I didn't feel like an idiot when I was on my hands and knees looking for it. So
yeah, nobody could see you cry.
Yeah, exactly.
You can feel like an idiot, but you just don't look like an idiot in front of other people,
Well, what would you say, what would one big piece of advice be for somebody looking into getting into SDI?
Yeah, so my big piece of advice would be first to just talk to an admissions rep. There's tons of information on our website, but our admissions team knows the programs best. We can help fit a program to what you're looking for, and then even talk about next steps, what's expected of our students and future, programs that you could build on from your initial program. I think that's the biggest piece of advice is start there. And then also start researching the industry in your local area. Knowing kind of what's going on in your area will help you as you're finishing up the program, whether you're looking to start your own business or if you're going to, try and work in the industry somewhere.
Take us through the admissions process. Say somebody has thought about it, they're ready to go. How do they start looking into becoming a student here?
Yeah, so a typical student usually gets to us in admissions by filling out a request for information on our website. Once you do that, it gets sent to one of our awesome admissions team members who reaches out to you within about 24 hours. And on that initial phone call, they're just calling to talk to you about your interest in the program, see what, kind of got you interested in gunsmithing or uncrewed technology, talk about your career goals. We're going to, answer all your questions about the programs, talk about all the cool stuff that our programs offer, and then kind of lay out what you would need to do to be a student here and what the expectations are for our students as they enroll. We'll sit down with you and make sure if you have any sort of question, it gets answered. So,
Do you have any recommendations for some of the questions that someone should be asking in that first call to their admissions rep?
yeah, so I would ask, one of the common questions that we get that everyone should ask is, tell me more about how this works, right? We're an online gunsmithing school, which sounds so weird, and we get the question all the time. But that way you can have an admissions rep really break down the hands-on aspect of our programs for you. I think you should ask about kind of what you can do from, whatever program you're enrolling in, like if it's the certificate, talk about kind of the next steps after that so you can set those goals for once you graduate. And then just come with any sort of like questions that you feel like you couldn't get answered from our website. Take a look at our website. If you see something you're like, I want to ask about that, jot it down. We love when you guys come to us with questions. It makes our job so much easier. So,
Yeah. One thing that I always stressed, like I stressed earlier, that this is a college you're going to have to put in work. So I always wanted the prospective student to know what they're in for. What are they getting themselves into? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And so, like I said, you're going to have to be able to do the work. So you have full-time is 2 classes at a time. During a 4-week period during your labs, you're going to have 3. Week starts on Monday, ends on Sunday. You've got due dates Wednesdays and Sundays. And so are you willing to read the chapters you need to read, watch the videos, do the hands-on work, do the papers, all that stuff? If so, let's keep going. If not, let's think about, what it's going to take or what you're going to have to overcome to be a successful student. Because I didn't want any of the people that I talked to fill out an application, get to the start date, and just not know, and then get overwhelmed. And it's very discouraging when you're like, oh, well, nobody told me this. I didn't know what to expect. And so, just really know what you're getting yourself into. Know that we're an accredited college. Know that you're going to have to put in the work. So,
Yeah.
how's that?
I mean,
How's that
you made a great point earlier. Just because it's flexible doesn't mean it's easy. College shouldn't be easy. But also, like, most of those, whether you call them challenges, adversities, whatever, life is going to happen no matter what. If it's something you want to pursue and it's something you really want to do with your life, you're going to find a way. I've heard it from graduate after graduate of stories, whether they're a full-time parent, whether they have a full-time job, whether they're in the military, traveling, whatever it is, students can figure out a way to make school work. The nice thing is being online adds advantages to make it work for you.
and it's a great thing too that I hear from a lot of students. It's when you're doing something that you truly enjoy in class, such as firearms or uncrewed technology, it's a lot easier to sign on to those online classes
That's so
when you're
true.
learning about something that's really cool and it's not like math or something like that. So
I did my undergraduate at a on-campus ground school, like a regular 4-year degree college, and I was an average student, but like I was working, I had to travel back and forth, I had to, do homework. I would do homework at school sometimes. I was in groups that relied on other people in my classes to get projects done. All the typical challenges of college, of course, trying to fit in a social life too. But I did another school for my master's degree, and it was completely online, but it was something I really wanted to do with my life. I was a much better student. I was passionate about it, and I had a purpose for why I was going back to school at that point, not just to get a degree. But I had, okay, here's how I'm going to apply it after I graduate. So all of a sudden, those classes, just something clicked. Like, okay, here's something I can pull from this class and how I'm going to use it. I better pay attention. I'm going to take a little bit extra time to research this. And it made me a better student.
All right. So, Nick, you've done the request for information. You talked to admissions rep. You're ready to go. What are the next steps after that?
yeah, so the next step after that is to fill out an application on our website. So once you request information, it automatically will make an account for you for the application. You'll log into the application. It's specific to you. It's based on whichever program you choose. Once you complete the application, it then will go over to your admissions representative, who will then reach back out to you, confirm everything's correct on the application, go over next steps which would be, meeting with our funding partners in our financial services department. Every student here gets a student success coach as well. So there's a welcome call with your student success coach so you can meet them. And then, admissions is there to make sure we get all your transcripts in and anything else that you may need that could prevent you from getting into that first week of classes. So we're there to kind of help make that a smooth process for you.
What are some of the funding options that we accept, and where can they find the information on all tuition and funding options?
Yeah, so on our website, we have a tuition and funding tab right at the top that you can pretty much get all your questions answered there. But we have, cash pay options. We have different payment plans to help our students with any sort of student loan debt. That's the last thing we want our students to have. So we do have different payment plan options available. We have, federal student aid. Students can apply for that. And if they qualify, they can use that here with us. And the same thing with veterans benefits. If they qualify for those, they can apply for those as well. If you're active duty, we have tuition assistance available here. You can apply for that through your branch. And the cool thing is we have an awesome financial services department here who will basically be there to answer any questions you have and hold your hand through that process. So once you apply, we then will set up a time for you to meet with your financial aid advisor depending on your funding source. It's all funding source specific as well. So they're all specialists on that specific funding source.
Yeah. So either way, you always have somebody you can reach to for support, whether through email, phone calls. There's even a chat on our website. If it's after hours, send an email, just have some realistic expectation on people being available. So
Nick, we also have, I call them rolling deadlines and enrollment periods for our programs. So what does the typical enrollment timeline look like, and how does that play in with those enrollment deadlines?
Yeah, so each student's different. Some students may get done as quickly as a week. Some may take a little bit longer, depending on the different types of documentation you may need for your enrollment. But the great thing is it's a very smooth and easy process. We usually can get you through the process within about 1 to 2 weeks, and really have you set up for your first class, which may be, a month out, it may be 2 months out. Like you mentioned, we do have those rolling starts that happen pretty much monthly. So just depending on when you apply and in that window of when the next start is, usually it's about 2 weeks we get you set up.
And you can check
advice?
our website for the academic calendar for your current start dates for the current year.
Yeah, for sure. But do you have any advice for like how to avoid some like common issues that may slow down that process?
Yeah, so um, for our students who plan on using some sort of federal aid, whether it's federal student aid, making sure you have the current year's FAFSA done with our school code on it, making sure if you're a student who plans on using VA benefits that you applied for those. And then just making sure that you're ready to speak with your finance advisor because they're going to lay out exactly everything that they need completed for you. And if there's additional documentation that's needed for something, they'll let you know exactly what that is and help make sure you get that to them and get that taken care of.
Yeah, all pretty typical of a normal college enrollment.
Okay. So once a student's accepted, start date's coming up. What is admissions, finance, and student success doing to help prepare that student for start day?
Yeah, so as that start date gets, as it approaches, it might be a little bit scary for some students, but usually within the first like 2 weeks before the start, our student success coaches reach out to you to have what they call a welcome call. And on this call, they basically lay out what you can expect on your first couple weeks of class, and then let you know that they're going to be there to help support you and make sure that you can log into everything. And if you ever need anything, they're going to be the one that you could reach out to. Admissions also will have an orientation. It's usually the Tuesday before classes begin. So that way you kind of have another voice and everything's laid out for you and you get a better feel for what's coming your way. Now, don't worry if you can't make it to that orientation. We do record it and send it out since, people work different times and things like that. And then, yeah, you'll have financial aid there if something does come up and you have questions about your package or your award letter or anything along that. They're there to support you and answer any questions there. So,
Nick, when it comes time to start courses, are our students going in, they're picking out the courses they want? What's that process like for their trajectory of how their program is going to take off?
yeah, so this isn't like a traditional college where you would like everyone sitting there waiting for the register, to register for classes. We have a pretty specific track that our students stick to, and that's because what you may learn in one class needs to transfer into that next class. So there's a specific way we do things. Certain courses may have a little bit of wiggle room on where they could be moved, but for the most part, it's a pretty straightforward track.
And then another part of that is also tools, because you'll receive tools in a certain class that you'll use in a future class as well. So since we are a hands-on school, it's good to know you're getting materials and tools for the classes that you need.
And for the programs that have it, are you going through in that first few calls as in the admissions call, the elective options?
Yeah, so we definitely touch on the electives. That's our favorite part to talk about. That's the cool part of the programs. So with our firearms program, each student gets to pick an elective class based on kind of state laws. What those elective courses are, it's our modern sporting rifle course, which students learn about the modern sporting rifle, the AR-15, AR-10, and the pistol caliber carbine, or an AR-9. In that course, they receive all the parts. They'll get a lower receiver, and they'll assemble that firearm from the ground up.
And they just pick one. Just
pick one.
Clarify, just
Sorry.
one of
you
the
only
platforms.
get to pick one of those platforms.
Yeah.
But you learn about all three in the course, which is cool. But you pick either an AR-10, an AR-9, or an AR-15 and build that.
And if I know a lot about AR platforms, is there other options?
Yep. Oh, yeah. We have our 1911 Advanced Armorers course, which is a very popular class here as well. A lot of students, may come in and they'll say, hey, I've built like 20 ARs already. I don't want to take that course. Cool. Have you ever built a 1911? And most students are like, nope, I've never even considered it. So that's an awesome alternative. We also have our pump shotgun advanced armor. So if, that's something that you may want to look into. And then for those of you who may not live in so much like a friendly firearm state, we have our business plan course where you actually will take your idea for a firearms business, do a business plan on it, and take that from idea to the finish line and present that.
Well, I think added on to that is like, not only is it options for if you have different rules and regulations depending on where you live, maybe how old you are, or your skill levels, but also, as you mentioned earlier, like, what is your goal going into this program? Yep, maybe I do already have enough comfort level building on those 3 firearm platforms, but I'm already ready to move on to the next phase of building a business plan. That's what I want to do next. And you've maybe never had that experience before. You want to learn about the basics of starting your business to going all the way to the FFL process to put it in your application for it, and more. So you do have different options to choose from, which is awesome.
And another common question we get is, well, Nick, can I take, I want to take them all. I want to take every single one of those classes. So for our students who graduate the program, they can come back and pay cash to take the one of the other electives that they did not take. So if you came in and took the AR,
and they get that gun too, right?
yep. Oh yeah, you get the gun. So if you come in, take the AR program class in your program, and you want to do the 1911 after you graduate, you could come back and pay to take that course. So.
Yeah, or you could take the firearms elective course in your program, then come back and take the business plan elective.
Yep.
Yeah, nice options there.
So what other resources that we haven't talked about throughout school? I know we've talked about admissions, student services, financial services, but one thing that sometimes gets overlooked is we have a career services department, correct?
So
what do they do?
Working through the enrollment process, as you're finishing up your career with us here at SCI, we have an awesome career services department that helps prepare our students for what's to come after graduation, right? They help with resume writing, interview skills. A lot of times they're emailing out different job opportunities to our graduates that they've came across. So, if you're concerned about what's next after you graduate, we're here to support you with career services department as well.
Just last week, Career Services hosted a webinar with the FBI looking to find some candidates for hiring. We had a good amount of graduates show up. They got to meet the hiring person for the FBI in Phoenix. And it was a good experience to see that happen. And that was not the first one we've done. We do those on a pretty regular basis.
Now, I've been in, I guess, education for almost 2 decades now. One thing I always enjoyed was going to graduation. And one thing that always impressed me about SCI is that we actually have graduation ceremonies. They are virtual, but we invite everybody out. Talk to us about those.
Yeah, so we do have our graduations here. A lot of students think that once they're done, they're just going to get their, degree in the mail, but that's not it. We definitely have a graduation that we have online. We invite the students' families. They can log in and watch as we call out their name and celebrate their successes.
Yep.
Typically have a keynote speaker. Go ahead, Steve. Look like you.
Yes, the way we do that is to make it a bit easier for both us and the graduates attending. So if you graduated a certain time period, usually it's like January through June and then July through December, we'll host 2 graduation ceremonies per year. So all of our January through June graduates of a certain year will come together. You get to have a live graduate interaction component to that, where you can meet other graduates, catch up with each other, and then we share that link for your students' friends and families to go watch. The nice thing is they don't have to watch it live. We make it available after the graduation is over. So if you want to send it to your uncle, your brother, your dad, your mom, they can watch it later. Easy. We just send them the link and they get to see your name and your award for graduating from SDI.
Yeah. And then afterwards, we actually host an graduation after hours, kind of like a Zoom meetup for people to talk to each other, meet, and, see where they're going. Because
I was saying, but wait, there's more. There's more to it as well. It doesn't stop there. Every time we go to a major trade show event, whether it's like SHOT Show or NRA Show, we also invite graduates to these industry events that are now working in the industry to come meet up with SDI folks and our other fellow graduates. And we have a dinner, we get to meet each other and hang out that way as well.
And I throw a darn good party.
He does.
So, you know.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But yeah, one big thing is going to be networking. And so we have a lot of for while you're in school, you've got the online campus chat, you've got Facebook groups, you've got a Discord. For afterwards, you've still got those groups, but then, you know, we have the after hours at graduation, we have these networking events. But really just keep building your network, because sometimes you don't know what you want until you know what you can get. And so the more people you meet, the more things you learn, the more outlets you're aware of, you know, it can take you a lot of different places. So I always say network and take advantage of what you have in front of you. So, okay, Steve, Nick, what else you got?
I think that's really about it. If anyone, you know, really finds themselves in an opportunity where they're like, I want to do this, I don't know where to go next, just the best thing I could suggest is to put in a request for information, talk with one of our awesome admissions reps here. You know, maybe you find out this is a great fit for you. Maybe you find out it's not what you're looking for, but having that conversation is the first step. And I think that can open up a lot and answer a lot of questions that someone may have.
Yep. You know, I always tell people the great thing about SDI with its online programs is the flexibility of being able to start wherever you are, whether that means your location, you don't have to travel to a campus or find somewhere near you. You can do it from home, or it means where you are in your life. Like we said, there's different stages of life to start school. And with SDI, it makes it a bit easier to adjust to going back to college, no matter where you are and how busy you are. You really just got to be like, am I ready to start? And talk most of our graduates, they'll just say, go do it. There's no better time than right now to go do something you love.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below, but check out, you know, our other videos on YouTube. We have a lot of grad testimonies. We've had a lot of graduates who have their own YouTubes put some content out. Check those out. But Nick, Steve, thank you. If you want more information and go through this process, go to sdi.edu, click that request information, talk to the admissions rep, go through the process, and hopefully I'll be able to throw a party for you once you get graduated and to one of these shows. But this has been this week's episode of the Gun Rack. Everybody wave bye.
Thanks, Nick, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun.